Good Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Listen, I'm glad to have you guys here. Today is the 7th, Saturday the 7th of December. We're heading toward Christmas. Nice time of year. I like Christmas time, but I don't like what comes after in January, that cold stuff. That's when it really gets cold. It doesn't seem to really set in real bitter cold and snowy until after in January. And it's kind of like a big letdown, after Christmas and everything's over. It's like then you have to face the rest of the winter. Not fun facing the rest of the winter. Anyway, plus this year, we're going to be facing 2020. And I think 2020, guys, is going to be a train wreck. Quite seriously. For the financial system of the world, I think 2020 is going to be a year that's so turbulent that we're going to remember it in the history books. Anyway, let's get started. Let's open up the charts right here. And, I want to show you guys something. Now, this is a site run by John Williams, and this is called Shadow Stats. And it's alternative to the government's numbers, The governments all around the earth, they fudge their numbers to make them look better. Now, if you look at this chart right here, you'll see that the red line down below is the government numbers for inflation, for the CPI, inflation. And we'll see that it's running just right around 2% right now. If we go back to 2019 right here, we can see it's running just under 2% according to them. But Shadow Stats has a different figure altogether. The blue line is Shadow Stats inflation. We can see it's over 5%. It's between 5 and 6%. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm watching consumer prices on everything go up. I think that, if anything, Shadow Stats is being conservative in their estimate of consumer price inflation on here. And I think that it's reflecting the more real number in the real world of inflation. Now, we know the Fed has a 2% target range, and they're underneath that 2% target range. So they figure that they've got to do something to get it up to that 2% line. If they do anything, the real inflation rate's going to run above 6%, which is what Shadow Stat is showing here. Now, why I get this chart up here is something of interest to me. Is Catherine Austin Fitts and Dr. Mark Skidmore have uncovered $21 trillion of money that's been created someplace. I don't know where it is. But I'm going to use my imagination for a minute. Pretend you are the guy or government agency or whoever they are, I don't know who they are, that has that $21 trillion. Well, in our minds, what we would picture is an enormous pile of money, The fact of the matter is if they do have that money, all they see is when they go into work or wherever they have that money stored on a computer someplace, all they see is 21 with 12 zeros in front of it. I think it's 12 zeros anyway, 21 trillion. They just see this number on a computer. What is it? It's just a number on a computer. It's no different than if you guys had a computer in your garage and you went out there and your kid typed 21 trillion on it. It's like nothing. Day after day passes. And that money on the computer is just there. It's no different than having a coffee mug sitting on your table. It's nothing. It represents nothing in the real world. Now, we got consumer inflation going on. Like John Williams at Shadow Stat shows, we got over 5% consumer inflation. That means that every year that they hold that money and they don't get something with it of value, then they're losing hundreds of billions of dollars. They're losing 5%. That means next year that money's only worth 95% of what... And that inflation's going to speed up, guys. Now, think about this. pretend they got that money, what do they buy with it to make it actually real? Because until they actually start to spend it on something, it's got no value. It's no more value than a coffee mug sitting on your counter. It's just digits on a computer screen. Until they actually start to buy something with it. And until they start to buy something that'll hold its value, that money is going to be losing hundreds of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Daily, if I told you how much money that money would be losing, 21 trillion, just sitting there through inflation, it would absolutely shock you. It's probably like $100 million a day. I haven't done the math, so but it's probably millions and millions. Every second it would be like $1 million it's losing its value through inflation. So, what do you buy with that to make it real? You buy gold? Well, there's only $8 trillion worth of gold in the world. So you bought every ounce of gold everywhere in the whole entire world, you'd still have an awful lot of money left over. It would only take $8 trillion of the $21 trillion. What do you buy with $21 trillion? I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what if I had 21 trillion on a computer someplace? What do you do with it? Because it's certainly just a bunch of digits on a computer. It ain't doing nothing for you. So I found that kind of interesting. Now, there's another thing I find interesting that I've been thinking about this morning. It's been going through my mind a lot. I see Emmanuel Macron over in France. Let's start the charts again right here and take a look at the news, right? Workers' strike in Paris. Well, you know what they're protesting and what they're striking over and everything else and what's going on over there in France right now is got to do with the French government's unfunded liabilities and their pension programs and stuff. They're still in this mode, like certain mode the government gets in where they're going to have austerity and try to do cutbacks and stuff and try to save themselves money, and reform. They oftentimes what they'll do is they'll call it, we're going to reform this. What they really mean is, we've decided to be tight with you guys and we're going to cut back how much we're paying out. That's what reform actually means in their terms, because they're a bunch of lawyers, the government, and they like to talk in legal terms. They think that they can bamboozle us and that we won't understand what they're really doing. You know what I mean? So here's one of the reasons why I think that this whole thing, and it's coming to a head now, is going to descend toward inflation rather than deflation. It's one of the reasons, and I'm going to point it out to you now, is look at what's going on over in France right now when they're trying to cut back. Now, they could get out of all this kind of troubles if they just print the money and fund these programs. Fund everybody. And this is showing up. Like, all of these other world leaders are going to they're going to take a close look at what Macron's doing. And they're going to say to themselves, do we really want to go down that road? Like the politicians right here in the United States, and in Canada here. They're going to watch what's happening here with Macron. And before they think about cutting benefits, say, to Social Security. Okay, we're running out of money for the Social Security program. Okay? Let's cut their benefits. Well, you better sit back and take a look at what's happening in France right now before you go down that road. Watch what's happening with Macron right now before you go down that road. Do you really want 1 million pension-aged senior citizen women with their walkers over their head, waving their walkers over their head, coming down the street at you, yelling, where's my Social Security this month? Or you cut my Social Security in half, you're going to pay. And I'll tell you, there'll be hairpins all over the road, and there'll be mad. They'll be mad. And just take a look. Take a look at what's going on in the world right now for the politicians. So I don't think they want to go down that road. And if they do try to go down that road, they're going to have to come back. And they're going to have to come back that road really fast, because I'm going to tell you what, this is not just localized to France. Every country on earth, if you start trying to cut back these social programs and all of these pensions and everything else, the people are not going to sit down and take it. Now, I'm going to tell you what. In Cyprus a few years ago, the bankers came along and they said, hey, you know what? We're going to close all the banks here in Cyprus, and we're going to do what's called a haircut. And we're going to put in legislation, and we're going to try this legislation out of what's called a bank bail-in, where they take the people's money that's in the bank, your deposits, and they take a certain percentage off of your deposits. Well, they tried it on, and the people of Cyprus said no. They did the same things going on in France right now. No, the people of Cyprus got utterly upset, and I mean, they could see that this was not going to fly. And so the banks, they backed off. They said, well, okay, we won't touch anybody's. Then when the people got upset, the ordinary people, they said, okay, we won't touch anybody's bank deposits that are under a certain amount, like the mass of the population. We won't touch your bank accounts. We'd only touch the rich people's bank accounts. And so they did. They went in and took a haircut on the more rich people. And the people settled back down again. They calmed back down again. The unfunded liabilities in the United States are absolutely massive. It's over $100 trillion. And if they even think about trying to cut everything, like cut Social Security and cut pensions and if they start cutting too deep, what's going to happen is they're going to find trouble. So there's only one direction that they can move in all this. Print it! Print the money! Start up the presses! Well, when they do that, they might as well go in all hog. Once they break the back of this thing, like the governments of Earth right now are still in this mood, kind of like, let's kind of try to cut back on physical spending. Let's try to cut back on these measures of cut. We're going to cut pensions, and we're going to try to balance our budget and all this kind of baloney. They're still in that mode, from ever since the 2008 crisis. And even the Fed's a little bit conservative right now. No, we're not going to cut interest rates just yet, the Fed's only doing right now what they have to. They even want to get out of this funding of the repo market. They want to try to get out of it, They want to cut back on it right now, and they want to try to get out of it. But the thing is that's that mood, that general mood that they have of conservative, where they want to conserve their money and try to balance the budgets and everything else. All that, at a certain point in time, not too distant future, all of that's going to go out the window. Because a realization is going to dawn on all of them worldwide, every government, that, hey, you know what? This conservation and trying to balance the budget and everything is never going to happen. We can't pay off this debt now. It's the same realization that occurs to a credit card person at a certain point, when they get too deep, where they know they can't pay off their credit cards, and then they're just like, okay, let's just take this thing to the max. And that's what's going to happen to these governments at a certain point. At a certain point, they're going to snap. They're going to realize, hey, this is not going to get cured. We might as well just print. Now, they might have to go through a bit of this stuff, a bit of this trying to cut back and stuff, and see what the people's going to do about it. They're testing us. They're testing the people. They're trying to see, hey, will the people really accept this if we go in and take money out of their bank accounts and we cut their pension in half and we do this and do that? They're going to come to a realization, no, the people aren't going to accept it. There's only one way to go with this. Print! You might as well get over this idea right now and get it out of your heads if you're a government official or whatever. Get it out of your head. You're not going to balance these budgets. You're not going to be able to go back now. There's only one direction you can go, and that's forward. You got to continue debasing your currency until the currency is totally worthless. And they're going to realize that at some point in time. They're going to realize that. I don't know how many parasites they're going to have to go through worldwide, here, there, and everywhere, until they realize that if you're going to go in for modern monetary theory, you got to go whole hog. Don't go halfway. You got to go in whole hog. And, this is the way with government. Government is individualized. What I mean by that is you've got many different people within government, and they have different ways of thinking. Some of them come in and they're very conservative-minded, and they want to balance the budget. They want to make the world right. They want the sun to come up tomorrow morning and roses to bloom everywhere and have a perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world. Get over it. This world's full of corruption. The financial system is a sieve, like you drain spaghetti in. You pour the money in one side and it runs out the other side. Get over it. You're never going to balance anything. You're never going to balance the budget. Why get in there and sign in these laws and stuff, to try to balance everything when you can't? So you get other people that come in the government, different other heads that come in the government, different other people, and they have a different idea. They have the idea, well, we might as well just go ahead and splurge and spend. Well, so you got two opposing viewpoints within the government itself fighting with one another over what they should do. It's not really unified. The government, a lot of people think of the government as being this unified body that thinks in one direction, but it doesn't. It thinks in every different scatterbrained direction you can think of. But they're going to learn. The ones out there that think, hey, we're going to balance the budget and we're going to do austerity, they're going to learn, and they're going to learn very soon in the next few months or next year or whatever, that don't work. And if they go too far with that, they're going to get themselves out of office. They'll be out of office on their ear. Now, let's just wait and watch and see what happens here in France. But it should be a model for the rest of these politicians. Just, if you're moving in a direction of modern monetary theory to print money, keep on printing it. Don't stop printing it. Feed it to the people. And ultimately, this is the only direction that they can move in. Thank you guys for listening to this show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the very next show very soon. Bye-bye, guys.